This is 6 Minute English from bbclearningenglish.com.
Hello, I'm Rob and this is 6 Minute English. And today I'm joined by Yvonne. Hello, Yvonne.
Hi, Rob.
Today we're talking about seed banks, a place where the seeds from all kinds of plants are carefully stored. Unfortunately, researchers are warning that about 1/5 of the world's plants are at risk of becoming extinct.
Ooh, so there's a danger that they might disappear altogether. That's really worrying, Rob.
It is, isn't it? But the seed bank is also showing people how to grow plants from those seeds again in the future. But before we find out more about protecting the world's plants from extinction, here's today's question. The Yutan Poluo is one of the world's rarest flowers and was recently found in China.
Yes, by a farmer.
That's right. But how often does it bloom? So when will the farmer see it in flower again? Is it in 1,000 years? Another 3,000 years? Or in another 5,000 years? Yvonne, what did you say when you were looking at this story yesterday?
Well, I went for the lowest number, Rob, once every 1,000 years. But even that seemed far too long for another flower to appear.
Yes, I know what you mean. So we'll find out how long the Yutan Poluo actually does take to bloom later on. Now, the Millennium Seed Bank is a project based just outside London, and it was set up in the year 2000.
Yeah, but I've heard that there are other seed banks in other countries which are also part of that project.
That's true. So seeds are sent in from all over the world. But the big question is, why are so many plants dying out in the world?
And how does the bank decide which seeds should be stored?
Well, Paul Smith is head of the Millennium Seed Bank. He's got some answers for us.
It's absolutely essential that we get the right species, those which are most threatened, those which are most useful, because we know that there's a good chance that many plant species will become extinct over the next few decades. And it's largely land use change. It's development for agriculture, it's development for urban centres and so on.
Paul Smith says that many plant species, that's different types of plants, are dying out because of land use change. So we no longer use our land in the same way. For example, it's used for development for agriculture. Now, Yvonne, can you tell us what Paul Smith means by that, please?
Sure. Well, land where lots of plant species used to grow is being cleared for farming, to grow crops and to raise animals.
OK, and what about development for urban centres?
Land is also being used to build new cities, places where people live, work and shop.
So it's essential or absolutely necessary for the bank to store the seeds of plants which are most threatened or at the greatest risk or danger of becoming extinct. But the bank must also store the seeds which are the most useful to us.
For example, the seeds of food plants or plants that can be used to develop new medicines.
Now, it's also interesting how the bank stores seeds so that they can be used to grow plants in the future. Here's what the BBC's David Shukman found out when he visited the Millennium Seed Bank.
And this is where all those seeds end up, 1.8 billion of them in one of these cold stores kept at -20. That's why you have to wear the cold weather equipment. Jar after jar, tube after tube of these seeds from more than 160 countries. The whole point of this Millennium Seed Bank is to try to build up a store of the planet's plant biodiversity.
The 1.8 billion seeds have come from more than 160 countries, and the seeds are stored at -20 degrees centigrade, much, much colder than the freezing point for water.
Ouch. So David Shukman definitely needed to wear cold weather equipment to protect him from the extreme cold.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, ideally, the bank would like to have seeds from all the plants in the world, seeds from the planet's plant biodiversity. By the end of last year, the bank had 10% of the world's plant biodiversity.
And by 2020, the Millennium Seed Bank hopes to have seeds from about 25% of the world's plants. So there's a lot of work to do.
Now, speaking of plant biodiversity, earlier I asked you how often the Yutan Poluo blooms. Was it every 1,000 years, 3,000 years, or every 5,000 years?
And yesterday I thought, surely it can't take longer than 1,000 years to bloom. But even that wasn't long enough for the plant to flower, was it?
No, that's right. According to botanical experts, the people who know the most about plants, the Utan Paluo only blooms once every 3,000 years. In fact, the flower is so rare that people thought it only existed in sacred Buddhist writings.
So the farmer who found it only has to wait for roughly another 3,000 years to see the flower again, if he can keep the plant alive.
And if he stays alive that long. OK, there's just time now for a reminder of some of the language we've come across in today's programme. Yvonne, can you help us with those, please?
Certainly, Rob. We heard extinct, bloom, species, agriculture, urban centres, plant biodiversity, botanical experts.
Thank you. Well, we hope you've enjoyed today's 6-Minute English, and do join us again soon for more.
Goodbye.
That was 6 Minute English from bbclearningenglish.com.